everything, and it allows you to change the way you see things and view things. You can see, and there's like so many different things that you can do with Google itself and your Google account, connecting everything from your analytics to your search console, your website, tracking emails, everything. So analytics is currently installed over, that number is way higher now. It's probably closer to 39 million websites around the world. The average of 55% of websites around the world use Google Analytics. It's a free tool. A lot of others kind of cost a little bit of money. And if we're starting out, Google Analytics is great. We all try and cut costs when we all start out. So use what you can. It plugs so nicely into WordPress. I mentioned right in the beginning of the sessions that there's a tool that comes with, or that you can get for WordPress. It's called Site, Google Site, and it pulls all your Google information into it. So you can log into the back of your website and see the Google Analytics. You can see Search Console. You can see how your ads are running, which is great. So you don't have to jump back and forth between website and your Google portfolio. As you can see, WordPress is one of the biggest content management systems around the world that's being used to build websites. And as I said, Google integrates very nicely into it. Wow, that's a lot of pages. 23.6 billion pages each month are used to produce 69.5 million new posts and new comments every month. And that's according to WordPress. And you can track, it just gives you the idea of how much you can actually track using Google Analytics. If you're starting out, I mean, there's a lot of mention about WordPress here. It is the easiest content management system to put together. It's very simple, and there's tons of help out there. And there's many plugins available, not just from Google, but people have gone out and written their own version of a plugin to suit their needs, and they share it with people around the world that use WordPress. Some of them, most of them are for free. Some of them might have a little bit of a subscription that goes with it, or a one-time purchase, which is really good, which is nice. So plugins are plentiful to help you track and digest and interpret what Google Analytics actually offers you. So there's a view of the top 5 analytics tools used around the world. As you can see, Google Analytics is like right on top of the list. The WordPress and Crazy Egg, I think they've swapped places recently. Obviously, there's so many people using WordPress, and if you sign up to the WordPress facilities, they offer you a whole lot of data as well. On the diagram on the right, I mean, I think the key point is, yeah, you want to be the upper right-hand corner of this table, if you like. That's obviously the best position to be. So as you can see, I mentioned earlier that there are tools out there that cost a bit of money. New Relic is one of those. And we are talking about trying to save money as much as we can, hence the sessions we're doing around Google tools. As you can see, Google is obviously a big player. You can see how many people use it, how many businesses use it, what are the categories that analytics is popular for. And you can kind of see the amount of websites, and these are ranging between 10 and 1 million different site groups in these areas. So as per usual, I'm going to take you through setting up Google Analytics, how it works. There's the link if you haven't signed up for a Google Analytics account yet. Obviously, in the first session, I showed you how to set up a Gmail account specifically for your business. We then connected it to Search Console, and now you can use the same Gmail account that you created for your business to set up your analytics account. And obviously, the first thing you're going to do is probably the most technical thing. So once you create your account, or if you haven't done it, the easiest way to set this up is to go through Google Search Console and connect up your Google Analytics account. If you do it this way around, you can link it back to Search Console later. So it asks you a few questions that need some information about you, and this is also for your benefit. So when you put this information in, make sure it's understandable to you. So if it's specific to your website, put the website name in there, or your business name in it, so you can understand it. If you're managing more than one Google Analytics account or more than one website, and you need an account for each of those websites, make sure it's legible and understandable to you when you log back into the analytics account. Google asks, can we share some of your data? Absolutely, it's all private. I think they share the data that they receive. So if somebody moves between Google and something else, that kind of information tracks. It doesn't share user information. So Google won't share the information where it says, Renato has just clicked on your website and he's come from Facebook of his personal profile. That information will never get shared. So it helps them develop their platform, which is great. And I mean, the benefits that come back through that study and development and looking through that data is extremely helpful for us. Once you've gone through this first step, it's going to give you a tracking ID. And as we did last time, there's a couple of ways that you could do this. There's a tracking code. We've spoken a lot about WordPress. That little piece of code there, you could either do it yourself and plug it into a file on your website, or you can send it to whoever developed your website and ask them to install the code for you. Generally, they should know how to do that. It's as much as copying and pasting that little piece of code and sending it through to your web developer. Or you're going to receive that tracking ID if you've installed the Google tools on the back end of your website. That's that tracking ID, the UA number there, is the number that it generally asks for. And if it can pick that, if you give it the right number, it'll ask you to log in, and off you go. It connects up and starts. It helps to start tracking the things that happen on your website. So from a WordPress perspective, this is the long way around. I think that what is it? Google site. Something or other, I can't remember the name. It was the latest WordPress app that kind of brings everything in together. It's the easiest way to set it all up, because you just log into your Google account and it pulls the information through to you. This way is, if you want to attempt it yourself, the code will go into a file under a WordPress site called header.php, which means that every single page will have the tracking code on it. And you don't have to go and install it on every single page. That's kind of what it looks like. It tells you, and all this information is available on Google as well, where if you click on the little icon, the little eye icon, it will give you a walkthrough, a very basic walkthrough. It doesn't give you all the information like the header.php or the head.php file. It tells you kind of, stick it between head and head on each of your pages, so it becomes a little bit more cumbersome that way. But Google helps you as well. They've got a little help file there. And once it's set up, you can start testing traffic, and your site's set up. That's the hard technical way, and your webmaster or your web developer will probably do it that way. If you wanted to do it by yourself, I mean, there's plenty of plugins. I talk about Monster Insight is another plugin that you can use. They also provide a bit of information. It has a free version and then a paid version, which gives you a little bit more in-depth information and allows you to kind of scrutinize more data. Then let's move on. Excuse me. So I'll just go through the rest of the setup using this Monster Insight. If you guys want to use it, you're more than welcome to. It's available. I'll share this. This will be shared with you later. Once you're all set up, you can go back to your Google profile, your analytics profile, and you can kind of start testing, setting test traffic, and making sure that it works properly. If you haven't done it through one of your, thank you, Monday, Google Sites, through one of the add-ons that you've installed. So one last thing you need to do is set up your actual analytics profile, if you like. and it gives you a whole bunch of options on, what you want to track, where you want to track. I think the main thing you want to do is you want to track everything on your website, not just from a specific area, unless you're starting a campaign that's purely mobile focused. Then you can kind of change that to analyze your web page from a mobile perspective, or if there's specific pages that you want to monitor. So if you've got a blog and your website is www.blog, if you wanted to monitor that, you can focus purely on that as well. But I would suggest we set up profiles and goals for that kind of information. So when you first set up Google Analytics, let it monitor your entire website. Thereafter, there are other things you can do to monitor specific pages and specific things on your website. So if you want somebody to click submit to register, you set up a goal for that. If you want people to fill in a contact form and instead of phoning you, you can set up a goal for that. If you want somebody to click on your telephone number to phone you directly from your website, you can set up a goal for that, and you can track each of those activities. But that's obviously further down in the analytics part. But initially, use and take as much of this information as you can, tick all the boxes, fill in all the information they want. The optional stuff is, as it says, optional, but use as much of the tool as you can, setting it up from the beginning to view as much of your website. So this is kind of what I was talking about with setting up tags and monitoring specific pages and allowing Google Analytics to do specific things using queries. If you wanted to set up a specific query to check specific things are running on your website or are searchable on your website, you can kind of type in those parameters. And I think you're probably going to need a little bit of help here. It can be quite technical. There's quite a few options available. And I'm not going to dig that deep into this today because I'll really blow your minds. There's a lot of information on Google Analytics. So reach out to your web guy to help you with this if you want, or give us a shout. We're happy to help you out setting this portion up from a query perspective. Like I said, there are ways around this. You can create goals later on to dig a little bit deeper into your website. So here we go. Let's talk about goals. So like I mentioned earlier, you can track specific things. If you've got an e-commerce website, you can track that people are adding to carts on a specific product. You can track if they've gotten all the way through to pay now button and fill in their details. You can track, you can set up 20 goals and they can do 20 different things on your website, which is quite handy. Obviously, your goals while you're setting up, they need to be measurable and achievable. You don't want to set up something really extravagant and it's very difficult for people to get there. And I think if that's the case, we should be using Search Console to see if it is difficult to find. You should use Search Console to kind of tell you that is a problem rather than analytics. I have a question from Helen. Can you track views on a specific banner? If your banner has a web page, yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's in your analytics profile, there's an option, which I'll show you guys later, that kind of allows you to drill down into where people have arrived, where they've landed, and then you can click on that, any one of those pages that they landed on, and you can drill down to see where they've clicked on the page. And in that area, you'll see the banner. So everybody's clicked on the banner, the specific banner. So let's talk about learning a little bit about your audience with your goals. So setting up your first template and creating a SMART goal. In this case, if we just got a basic website that runs a blog post, there's no selling, anything like that kind of thing. You kind of want to see if people are reaching your blog posts. If you've got a call to action, you want to see if that's actually working, if it's in the right place of the page. You can set up a goal to do that specifically. When you're setting up a goal, then you want to rather go do a custom goal. In this, if the template doesn't allow for what you're asking for, a custom goal lets you obviously dig down and become a little bit more specific. So when you're working on setting up a goal, it gives you a whole bunch of options. And those are, you know, is it a revenue goal that you have? Is it an acquisition? So where are people coming from? Is it an inquiry, as in people are filling in a contact me form or a subscription form? Or is it engagement where they're actually going in and interacting with a blog where you've got comments set up and people are actually interacting with the blog and asking questions and being answered and those kind of things. The last option is obviously smart goals, which is kind of like, I'll talk about these in ads as well. Smart goals, that is where kind of Google helps you a little bit more and they give you a little bit more in, they don't bother you with all the technical bits and pieces. They kind of help you set something up and it will tie into AdWords and it will tie into your Google ads. And it gives you a bit more of a view from a beginner's perspective. I think once you've kind of got an understanding on how analytics works, same with ads, you will venture out of the smart options that Google offers. That's basically the easy way, less steps, where Google helps you achieve a goal or set up a goal quite easily. Obviously, you want to set up your goal with a decent description. As I mentioned earlier, you've got to label it correctly so you know what it's all about. I mean, if you want to measure how many times somebody downloaded a specific file or downloaded anything from your website, you'd probably say, you know, label it accordingly. Or if you've got a call to action that says sign up for our next webinar, you know, that's a form that you want them to fill in, you label it accordingly. So like this, we are running a Google for session tool setup. You know, I want to measure how many times people have got onto the website or downloaded any of these files that I've given you. I would label it specifically to, you know, so that I can understand it. I mean, when you've got 20 goals and if they've all got funny tags in them and you don't understand, it's going to be difficult to kind of go through them and administer them later. So the aim of a goal is obviously to measure success and people are, you know, what are they doing? So you've got to set up your destination. If you want to see how long people are spending on your website, I mean, that's generally referred to as bounce rate. If somebody comes along, lands on your website and sticks around for 2 minutes, that's fantastic. If you want to measure that, that's very successful. If you're measuring bounce rate, what's the takeaway from bounce rate is do I have the right content in the right, is the layout right? Is it legible? So are people sticking around and reading my articles? Obviously, so bounce rate is lower and they're sticking around longer, it's great. If you have a call to action on one of those pages, this goal will also help you determine if that call to action is too low, or if it's too high, or if it's in the way on your web page and disrupting what you're trying to get people to do. This goal would help you kind of rectify that or remediate that later. So that's the, you know, how many times people visit the page, how long they stick around for, screens per session, which all relates back to the bounce rate. Okay, let's talk about the goal details. So if you're measuring sales and you've got an e-commerce store and you want to measure how many sales people have closed, most of the time, most of the stores that you go to, once you click on buy now and you've gone through the whole pay process, you usually get presented with a thank you screen. In that, obviously, when that gets presented, Google can measure that. And if you tell them where that page is and what it's called, I mean, sometimes it's not called thank you, it could be called something else. You want to put that information in the destination to help you decipher where they're going and Google to kind of give you the information that you're looking for. From an expression perspective, I mean, there's a couple of ways that you can highlight things that you want done on your page and read. And Google kind of helps you with a few options where, I mean, equals to thank you, or begins with thank you, or thanks, or something to that effect. You can be a little bit more vague if you're not too sure what your page's name is. Or you can put in an expression that says, I want to see if people have arrived from my email that I sent out. This is the link to the email, and I want to see if they end up on the thank you page after seeing my email, my bulk email that I sent out. So this one, this is a great goal for setting up if somebody phones you. You can do this in Google My Business, which is quite simple. You can use this from an ad perspective. So the concept here is similar to measuring, if you're running an ad on Google Ads that you basically want people to phone you, you can set up a goal to say, the goal of my ad is to send people from this area to click on this link, which is my phone number, and I want to be able to talk to them for 1.5 minutes for it to be determined a goal. So you can kind of put a duration on your goal. You could also turn it around to say, I want people to be on this page. It's a blog. It's 300 words long. It's about 2 minutes worth of reading. I want to measure that people have actually read that blog. And if that 2 minutes duration has been met, then Google will register it as a successful goal. What's nice is you can go back into that goal later and see, how many times people have, or how many times the goal has been started, and which page, how far the people have gotten on the page. You get information like saying they basically spent 30 seconds on the page, which allows you to kind of go back and say, well, maybe my content is not structured correctly, or I don't have my headings in the right place, or I've lost the person after they've landed on the page, they haven't scrolled. So part of the goal, it helps you determine, for a blog writer perspective, it helps you determine if your content's right, if people are liking it, and are they actually spending the amount of time on that page that you want them to spend. This goal is, if you've got a product that you're selling and you've got different pages around this product. So an e-commerce store where you've got a page, which is an information page, where it could be called products, and it displays all your products. And you want to measure how many times people actually go from that page to the thank you page. And you want to also measure, the conversion is moving from the product page to the actual product and purchase on the shop store, for example. There's a few options that you can set up here. How many times you want people to visit, that they subscribe to the page after they've clicked on the product and gone to view it. You might be running a promo or a special, have they clicked on the special link or the special pop-up or whatever you set up. And then obviously, whichever buttons you've set up for that, so pay now, register now, subscribe, whatever the case is, you can set up a goal to measure specific actions after, people have visited a page and stuck around there for the duration, and then clicked onto the next page, which is purchase or subscribe or read or whatever the case is. So I think that's the goal set up. So as it says that you have 100 accounts limit on Google Analytics. So as an agency, we can only manage under one profile. We can manage 100 other accounts. I don't think you really need to worry about that too much, but it's a bit of insight. You can add, 50. You can have up to 50 different websites on your one Google profile. You can manage 100 others, 100 different accounts. Setting up 2 or 3 different analytics accounts on one website is a bit of overkill. I think if you set up your analytics account correctly the first time, you won't need it the second time. Okay, so let's talk about the how-to, what things are and what it looks like, and what the different things are on your profile when you land on Google Analytics. I'll just take you through a brief rundown of what it looks like. I'll take you through a Google page just now and show you what it looks like live and the kind of information that's being read. What's nice is you've got obviously access to a whole bunch of reports. Like I said earlier, you can set these up if you like. You can use somebody else's templates, or you can use what comes, as default. You can break your analytics page down into different areas that you want to monitor. So is it a page section? Is it the entire website? Is it a specific product portfolio? Is it a blog subject category that you want to monitor? I mean, the report facility is huge, and there's a lot of options available, and you can tweak the whole landing page, if you like, to show you specific things that you want. So your homepage can have a whole bunch of little reports that are either shown in a pie chart or it's shown in a graph or a running graph, and you can compare the current data to live data to the past 30, 90, 120 days worth of data on your website. You can look at all kinds of things. I think the most common when you land are sessions, the session duration, any goals that you set up, and the bounce rate, which is generally the generic, and they're quite important. Once you know that your goal for a bounce rate is for somebody to stick around on my blog, which is a 2-minute read, at least 1.5 minutes. If you've got that bounce rate correct, you can obviously then take that away and replace it with something else, or extend the size of your page, the home tab anyway. If we're talking about the reporting tab, you'll find this on the left-hand side of your screen once you land on your home page and everything's set up. And it tells you a whole bunch of things that you can kind of click on. So the dashboard is where you land, and you can set up your own dashboard to show you specific information, like I mentioned, so session duration, bounce rate, etc. Or you can scroll down and look at real-time information, which basically shows you, I've got 3 people sitting on my website right now looking at stuff, and you can kind of interactively click on that stuff and see where they're going, where they've been, and that kind of stuff. The audience is, it shows you data about who your audience is, so they're male, female, where they're based in the world. You can drill down into that, into which kind of city they're living in. It gives you information about what operating systems are being used, what devices are being used. Is it a PC? Is it a Windows machine? Is it a Mac, or is it a Linux? Are they using a mobile phone? Is it Android or iOS, or is it a Windows phone? That under the audience perspective, you can pick up a lot of stuff, a lot of information about your audience, and that helps you plan things. So we talk about ads in the next session. It helps you plan things on how to set up an ad. Do you want to focus on people that have mobile phones? Do you want to change? If you see people are viewing your website more often from a mobile device, you want to tweak your website and make sure your website is easily readable and presentable on those kind of devices. So the takeaways are quite good and quite large from the audience perspective.
Hi, Renato. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Sorry to just take you back a bit. When you were on the goals, you mentioned templates. Will it be what they call the gallery, where you can import from the gallery? Is that the template that you were referring to about the goals?
No, so the goal template is basically the template that Google gives you. So there's a certain way that you can set up specific goals to do specific things. So that's what I mean. The templates are more around the way you view your reporting. So on your dashboard, you can download a template that will show you what an e-commerce, what stuff you should be measuring from an e-commerce perspective. Or if you want to look at specific, customer acquisition, there's potentially a template that's already created. Those are the templates that I'm talking about.
Okay, let me rephrase. Where do we find those templates?
When I get to the live view, I will show you where we find those. So in the dashboards and in the reporting side of things, there's usually an option to go and download a template or to go and view the template in the gallery.
Okay, no, thanks. I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay. I kind of touched on the dashboards. I think this kind of also leads to what you're asking, Mondo, is you can create your own dashboard on specific things, and you can either use a template or you can go into the gallery and create a custom dashboard that shows you specific things. So if you want to measure how your e-commerce store is doing on one dashboard, and on another you want to see how your blogs are doing, and on another you want to see how many people are watching or signing up for newsletters or whatever. So you can set up your dashboard to kind of do a whole bunch of things, and you can have more than one. Sorry, there's a question here from Odette. Is it imperative to have a tracking system on a website? It's not. It's very important. Yes, absolutely. If you want to see what people are doing on your website and what they are not doing, absolutely, you need it. You need to be able to see what's happening. This is where the analytics comes in, because it tells you, what people like and dislike about your website, and it allows you to change and update it to meet your audience that you're focusing on. The tracking system is absolutely hidden. If you haven't noticed, these days, if you go into a website, there's usually a pop-up at the bottom or the top of the screen, or there's something that pops up in your face saying, my website makes use of cookies. And you've got to say yes or no to kind of accept it or decline it. If they decline it, then obviously the tracking stops there and then. But if they accept it, then a little file is put on the user's machine, and it says in the file that they've visited your website, and it feeds that information back to you as the website owner and your analytics system, and it kind of gives you an idea of what that person likes, dislikes, where they visit, and that cookie helps you, back to the tracking, the cookie helps you set up adverts or tweak your website so that you're reaching the right audience at the right time. So the tracking is not invisible, but they can't see what you're tracking unless they know how to read a cookie, where they can go onto their local machine and either pull that cookie, but that cookie disappears if somebody clears their cache on the browser or clears their browser history. So the tracking is there, but it's not blatantly visible like you would see in a Google Analytics account. Back to the presentation. So shortcuts, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory. You can create specific shortcuts for yourself to play specific data that you want to see on a regular basis. I mean, if you get lost, which can happen, in all the reports and things that Google Analytics offers, if there's something specific that you kind of like and you want to, keep it simple for yourself to find it, you can create a shortcut to it. You can create a report and create a shortcut to that report so that you know where it is all the time. Like most of these big companies, the path to specific data can be quite deep, and if you find it once, you might not find it again later. So keeping a shortcut is quite handy. So this is talking about the different ways you can read things that are happening on your website. So when you started setting up your Google Analytics profile, there are a couple of questions where Google asks, can we share your data? Can we use it for development purposes? That information is fed back to you from the intelligence events. It's kind of built in. So if your data is shared and Google finds that your audience is doing something a little bit different in a specific area than they've ever seen anywhere else, they will then update their backends to kind of use that data and present it back to you in a nice, intelligent, easy way. And I mean, there's nothing that you have to do to kind of get that information back or benefit from it later. You can set up these events to kind of prompt you when you pop out, when you come in. You can have them send emails to you when specific things happen on your website. So if somebody goes and, if you haven't got it built in on your website already, if somebody goes and puts something into a cart, you can have Google prompt you to say, these things are happening, and this is the goal that you wanted. So you know, maybe you've got a little chat bot that you man physically by yourself. You can go start chatting to this person on your website. Real-time reports, that's kind of live. So you can kind of see, as you can see from this page, it says there's 11 people right now on your website. And you can kind of drill down into that and see where they've come to, what their active page is, and kind of what they're looking at. And again, it's nice if you want to chat to them directly. We've all seen these bots that pop up and say, hi, I'm here if you need some help, and then either disappear or they pop up with another message, and it becomes quite annoying. And you kind of close it. This real-time report will help you show that I'm actually a human talking behind the bot, and if you need help, you know, we're available, we're right here, we're watching you. Well, you wouldn't want to say that. Audience reports. I mean, this is, if you don't know who your audience is, this is a great way to learn about them. If you've been driving visitors, all kinds of visitors, if you're running a boosted post on Facebook that you want people to go and visit your webpage from, this will help you kind of see, you know, who's visiting your page, when's the best time to reach these people, because they visit my page between 9 and 3 on a Monday and Tuesday. They're mostly male or female. They're based in whatever country, you know, the operating system that they use, if they're on mobile or PC. So the audience report is very handy in determining who your audience is if you don't know who they are. I mean, as a salesperson, back in the day, we used to go sit in somebody's office and look around their office, and you could see, well, this guy likes rugby and he likes skiing. He's got a family of 3. He's got 2 daughters, and he's potentially got grandchildren. He plays golf. You know, you could see the stuff that was in their office and the way they talk. If you're running an e-commerce site or a blog site, you know, that information is not freely available. I mean, you're not going to be able to see all your readers and the information that they have by a visit. This tool, the analytics audience report, actually helps you with that. You can kind of drill down to see, you know, who your audience is. Another question here from Sherry. I'm a startup, so not many people know about my website. How will I get my website to the top of Google search? So I think we've covered the first thing is setting up your, you know, Google My Business, go to Search Console, make sure that everything from the way Google sees your website is working, and then doing some SEO on the back of your website, making sure that all your images are labeled and have a meaningful description, so that if Google reads it, you know, they know where to point people that are looking for whatever you're offering on their website. So those are 2 very important things, 3 very important things to do. So tell Google you're around. Let Google tell you what's working and not working on your website, and then start doing the SEO remediation. And then obviously you use Google Analytics to see the traffic that you are getting, where it's coming from. Once you kind of understand that, you could then change your focus or your actions to target those people wherever they're coming from. So if they're coming from Facebook, you can kind of change your view to Facebook and start running more posts or ads, or being more interactive on your Facebook page and answering more questions and asking whatever it is, right? So the analytics will help you kind of show where your visitors are coming from. Does that answer your question? I hope so, Sherry. And it's a process. These things obviously don't happen overnight. SEO, I mean, once you got it started, you got to give it like 3 or 4 months. We generally say 3 to 6 months before it actually starts working and you start ranking on the first page, if you're doing it right. Okay, so let's audience reports. So what's nice about the reports is it's very interactive. If you put your cursor anywhere on the graph that's shown, it will pop up with, you know, the date, the time, you know, what it is that you're looking at. Is it sessions? Is it any other segment that you've set up, and measuring? And then depending on how you've got your page set up, you can kind of see other information. So the graph at the top, for example, could show a sum of everything that you've got in place, and then the little boxes below is the breakout. You know, how many sessions you've had, who the users are, how many are new visitors, how many are old, what's your bounce rate, etc. Again, it's tweakable. You can add and take things off. I'll show you in a little bit on what's visible and what's not visible. If there's stuff that makes no sense to you and you don't really want that, you can get rid of it. So again, it's very tweakable. You can make it look the way you want it to. You can change those bar graphs to pie charts to just numbers. We spoke about acquisition reports earlier. I think we're digging into it now. Again, this shows you, how people are finding you, where they're coming from. Are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from organic search? Have you sent an email or sent a link out directly to them that they've clicked on and come directly to you? Are they using any sort of social media platform to come through to you? Did you send an email, or is there something else that you did? Perhaps there's like a WhatsApp chat that you've started, or you've sent an SMS. The acquisition kind of gives you an idea of where your traffic is coming from. If there's a specific area that you're focusing on, where you're trying to grow your traffic, I mean, this is a great opportunity here to kind of view what's working, what's not working, and where the best place is where you want to, spend your efforts. In this case, if you want to just focus on referrals, which is usually a backlink from another website, the referrals is quite small on this little pie chart. You could focus on generating new backlinks and sourcing new backlinks to your website from other people's blog posts, etc. So the behavior reports is, what are people doing on your website, where they're coming from, where they're going, how long they're sticking around. Is your search working? Is your results from Google search working? Are people coming directly from Google search results, or is your website running a bit slow? On one of the tabs under behavior, you can kind of click and see where people are landing on your page, where they're coming from on the home page. It gives a little diagram. It shows you where they've gone to from there, and you can follow the route and see, where people are going to from here or from this page to that page, if they're going in the right direction. If there's a specific flow that you want to achieve out of your website, this will give you an idea of what's actually working and what's not working. The conversions report is kind of like are your goals working? It helps you kind of see, I've set up a goal to get people to subscribe to my newsletter. I'm building a funnel for that. The goal I set up was to read how many times the subscribe now button has been clicked. And under this section, you can kind of go through each one of your goals that you set up and measure and see if it's actually working. And it helps you kind of show various things. Is that pop-up that you've got coming up too early? Are people leaving too quickly? Is the pop-up the right thing that's working, or is it putting the call to action, subscribe now, in the top 30% of the page, or is it better at the footer of the page? Are you is your goal being achieved on that specific page? And this is the place to kind of have a look and dig down deeper into that information. So this is, if you click on the little Google Analytics tab at the top left-hand side of your analytics page, it gives you options of the account that you're working in. If you click on the account name, it pops up with a whole lot of information that you've got available to you, and it allows you to do a whole bunch of things. I'll try and touch on some of the information. So obviously, the account settings about how you set up your account. If you want to invite somebody like me to come and help you with things, you'd go into user management and invite me from over there, and take away people's rights or change their rights to your analytics accounts in that section. If we move over to the property side, the property settings is about your code. The tracking information is if you're setting up a new page and you'd like the tracking information to be on that page specifically, you can download that code again or pick up the UA number. You can link your other accounts like your AdWords accounts if you're running Google Ads. If you haven't set up a Google Search Console, you can connect to it from here, and any other Google product that's available that has Google Analytics built into it. You can use this area to kind of connect those other things up if you haven't. And then on the view side, it's just, we're currently looking at the blog page. You can go through all the settings that you've got on that specific page, how it's measured, what the goals are, what kind of filters they've got. Is it e-commerce? Do you have any e-commerce set up for that page or not? Do you have any segments set up, etc. So this is how you can dig further into your Google Analytics account and do specific things on your profile. Again, this is the admin tab. I'm not going to go through, I've gone through the previous one. It's pretty much the same. And the metrics, so there are plenty. There's a plethora of different kind of metrics that you can kind of set up. As I said, you can set up your page the way you want to see it. So if you want to measure sessions, how many times people have visited your page, how many pages have viewed, how many sessions were initiated to view specific pages, what's the average duration on the page. That's kind of like back to the blog. If you've got a blog that's 2 minutes long, 2 minutes worth of reading, are they actually sticking around and reading it? What's the bounce rate, which is how long people are spending on your web page. The percentage of new sessions, how many people have visited your website that are new visitors. As I mentioned earlier, if somebody visits your website and Google will, or your website will automatically put a little cookie on that person's computer. Next time they visit your website, it won't be measured as a new session. So the new session is basically, well, these guys have never been to our website. They don't have a cookie. They never had one installed. They now have one on their machine, and this is the first time they're visiting your website. So that's what a new session is. And then obviously your goal conversion rate. Are you achieving the goal that you set out to achieve? So that is the technical part of the session. There is a glossary coming through later at the end of the session. If I'll quickly get out of this and share my screen and show you where is my, that's it. So from the reporting perspective, this is kind of a home screen. I mean, we've been talking about Abacus Locksmith. This is their live account. As you can see, we've just left it all basic because they're not very technical. It shows you a whole bunch of things. So this is how many users have visited last week, this week, how long they've currently spent on the website, which is it's reducing. What's the bounce rate? It's coming down, but it's not great. When's the best time people visit their website? Where they're coming from? I mean, they're focusing on South Africa, so this doesn't really mean much to them. It shows you which devices get used the most. So in this case, mobile is quite high, so their website is mobile friendly. As I mentioned, everything can be highlighted, clicked on. The mouse can move over and show you information on specific things. This shows you how user retention of visitors that have visited your website returning. You ideally want this to be blue, so people are coming back regularly. There's no ad campaigns running, so there's nothing to show you there, and they've got goals running. So basically, they are wanting to see if people are clicking the telephone number to say phone me now, or if they've actually gone through to an email. And these two were used in previous Google ads. So from a Google ad perspective, if the ad basically said, if somebody clicks on my phone number and I speak to them for longer than 60 seconds, then Google will bill you. So that's a goal that I want to see to measure, that they wanted to measure. From a reporting perspective, you can set up your own dashboard. There's a thing called Data Studio Mondo. Are you paying attention? These are some of the templates that are available. You can kind of select this box. Once you're in the report, you just got to go and enable each one of the little bits that they're offering, that they're showing, and point it to the data that you want to view. So Data Studio for your dashboards. This is where you can go and download, where the gallery is, to go and download dashboards that people have already set up. Mondo, from your perspective, I think if you're running analytics for anybody and they want specific things done on their website and want specific things measured, the dashboards that are downloaded can be specific around e-commerce or reading a blog, or people coming in from a mobile device and measuring what OS they're using. So there's hundreds and hundreds of these things. You can download them, install them, run through the thing, and if you like it, you can keep it. If you don't like it, you can delete it and start again. Or you can create your own dashboard from scratch. I mean, you can use these dashboards as a template, if you like, and see how they put it together, and then create your own according to what you're kind of wanting and looking for. Same with the reports. You can create your own custom reports, or you can go through Data Studio and use the reports that Data Studio have. As you can see here, there's an import from gallery, and you can go through, and the gallery kind of looks very similar across, Data Studio and analytics. It shows you, I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that you can do. You might find something specific. So if you want to focus on acquisition, you can, it'll show you all the acquisition types of reports. And you can decide on which one of these you want. If you click on the link, it shows you a bit about it. And then if you like what you see here, you just click on the import button. And next time you come to reports, that report will be sitting over here. Or in the dashboard section, there'll be a new dashboard with its name, which you can rename. I wanted to show acquisition. Gives you an overview of where people are coming from, where they're going. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of different areas that get measured. So if we go to tree maps, this shows you where people are coming from. You can change what you're seeing and what you're using. You can change, there's a lot of things you can change. It gives you a whole lot of options. This shows you, where's your traffic coming from, and you can change how it is sorted. You can use any one of the columns to kind of sort by, if you like. And if you're measuring how much you're earning, in one of your goals, you'll say that a sale generally brings me in $5, and you put in, the value there. If you've had three sales, you'll have this number will obviously reflect that information. Let's see if these guys have got any more. I wanted to show you the tree map, which is quite interesting because it shows you a whole graph. They don't have. Let's see if I can take you to somebody else. I think we've got some. No, not working on that website. So basically, it shows you where people have arrived, where they've come from, and then where they've gone to once they've landed on your website. They haven't set these guys up yet. It's a nice little view. It's got like a little line that runs across from homepage, and then it'll go to, they clicked the menu, or it'll drop down and it'll say they clicked on pages or another page, and then you drill down and you can kind of follow the whole journey that somebody has taken from start to finish in the session that they were in, and you can kind of see where they've started and where they've finished, where they've left the page. If you're trying to track a sale, you can drill down all the way down to the thank you page to see if people have actually gone through and placed things into your cart. You can see your dropout rate at that point. It helps you determine, if I got the right information in my cart, is it easy for them to use? Is the process that they follow short enough? Obviously, you want somebody to make a sale as quickly as you can and as many times as you can in the shortest, easiest way that for them so that they stick around and shop and buy more. If that's the goal, you know, through this tree view, you can kind of see if you're achieving that and where you need to change. So that is